This is the book of Galatians, chapter 6 and verse 8. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. First and foremost, I want to say, Call Layim La Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakha Kodash. That's all praise to the Heavenly Father that this world ignorantly called God. Bahasham, that means in the name of Yahushai, who this world ignorantly called JC, and in the Spirit Holy, the Rakha Kodash. Double honors to GMS, Great Millstone, who rule well, teaching this truth on the highways and hedges, risking their lives and freedom to do so. And as Zaquan Malcolm out of GMS Chicago would say, now more than ever risking their life and freedom to do so, because we know this devil, all right, so-called white man, beginning with you Amalekites, all right, has come down with great wrath, seeking who you may devour, destroy, what have you, all right. A sincere shalom I want to give to the household of faith, the tabernacle of David, that be you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And those of you who look like the heathen nations, and when we say heathen, we don't mean it in a derogatory sense, we just mean the other nations. But yeah, there are Israelites of those other nations, because we are scattered to the four winds of the earth. So you hidden among those other nations, man. All right, your lineage go back to Jacob. If you agree in the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai, you might be of the elect. Shalom to you and your household, as well as to the few sisters listening and learning, as the scriptures say to do. I'm your brother and humble servant to Sab on Yahweh. All right, Little Rock, Arkansas. And Lord's willing, this lesson is edifying, and this is going to be a classic one on corruption. Let me read this again, Galatians 6 and 8. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. Which means, if you worldly, meaning that, it's okay to have money. Money is a defense, all right? But wisdom is the principal thing, all right? And all I get understanding. But money is a defense, right? So, with Esau, he take it to a whole nother level. His desire for greed and money, his love for it, and being greedy of gain has corrupted him. All right? What do Yahweh say about the love of money? It's the root of all evil. And this is why he committed so many evils in the world, so many atrocities. That's why this place is full of abomination, because of greed. All right? And the cities of America, Babylon the Great, are troubled. This is literally modern Egypt because of greed. And Egypt is symbolic of bondage. Go back to the transatlantic slave trade, the slavery era, Jim Crow, the Black Codes, Reconstruction era, Civil Rights Movement. Who was the devil that was bringing oppression, right? And pain to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's right, the so-called white man, which is by the Bible known as the Edomite, the Idumeans, all right, the wicked, the border of wickedness. That's Malachi 1 and 4. So it says, for he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. So that's what he got coming, corruption. And that's what he shows, that's what he expresses, corruption. It says corruption is the dishonest or illegal use of power and authority for personal or private gain. And that's Esau Edom right there. All right. It most often involves people in influential positions. This man was an actor. He's now the chief in command of the armed forces of the United States. A part of that three-seated government consisting of the United States, Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C. It's a District of Columbia. The Vatican, which will serve as the Antichrist, all right, the false prophet, the anti-Hamashiach, anti-savior. All right, so they got to have a religious arm. And so you got your military, D.C., the religious arm, Vatican, and then you got London, England, which got what they call a Lord Mayor, and they're for the economic dirty spirit, that spirit of corruption, monetarily. They are the ones who pretty much gave birth to the financial system that's over here in the United States. All right, you find out how the Bank of England was started. It was started by the Rothschild family, the Rothschilds, the Amalekites, those people who are so revered over here. Over 7 million lobbyists belong to them. If you don't understand what's going on with your politicians and why they are acting like as if they bought and paid for, and why average Americans are calling this place the United States of you know who. You know, corruption. And speaking of corruption, let's look at who these small hats calling their Messiah. Let's see what he doing. That's his name up there. We call him Nero 47 affectionately. We know who he is in the spirit. Trump asked Supreme Court to allow order restricting mail voting. All right, his administration on Monday asked the Supreme Court to clear the way for an executive order by President, you know who, all right, that restricts voting by mail, setting up a legal showdown as the president pushes for more control over voting ahead of the midterm elections in November. All right, so he want more control. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4 said, "Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him." All right, but the just shall live by faith. Yea, also because he transgresses by wine, which is his doctrine. Okay, the way he thinks, he's got the mind of Satan. Okay, and say he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Right, he's all over the place. Venezuela, he thought he was gonna do Venezuela. He thought he was gonna do Iran like Venezuela. You know, hey, he was sorely mistaken, wasn't he? All right, he said, "Neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire." Remember, he wanted more from these elections. He wanted more control, right? He who enlargeth his desire, his will as hell. You see, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. So you know, the more power, you know, he's thirsty for, and really, it's his handlers that's really buying, who has bought and paid for his services as the chief executive officer of the corporation that they run. You see, it said, "Cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." All right, so that's the devil that the Bible speak of, man. The spirit that's on him. It's the spirit of greed. And look at what else. Look at what Trump, what he threatened to do. All right, so I had to Google this to see if it was true. Right? It said, according to reports, directives from the president have included statements interpreted as threatening criminal penalties related to the distribution or processing of mail-in ballots. All right, so he thinks the system is corrupt, right? And we're gonna read about the consequences of him pushing that narrative, right? Because there was some cost. It was costly, man. And I'm gonna show you, it was like really costly. All right, to you so-called taxpayers. They say this the executive order. It say reports indicate that in March 2026, an executive order was issued related to mail-in voting ahead of the upcoming midterm elections. The order reportedly included instructions for the U.S. Postal Service, USPS, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Social Security Administration to compile information related to voter lists. So that whole takeover, the Social Security Administration and all that. Remember what Doge was doing? They was gathering all the information that they could on the voter list to see who was legal and who was not, and that coincided with the DHS. All right, going after so-called illegals, the Northern Kingdom. It said, according to the description of this directive, USPS delivery, the Postal Service was reportedly instructed regarding the delivery of mail-in ballots based on a federal list. These are potential penalties according to the executive order. It said reports state the order mentioned potential criminal penalties, here we go, for state election officials. All right, also mail carriers and other entities, this is crazy, and other entities or individuals involved in the distribution or processing of mail ballots. So if you even handle, if the mail ballot was in your chain of custody, you touched it, breathed on it, the executive order say criminal penalties for you. It said for individuals deemed ineligible by the federal administration. All right, so the mail ballots for so-called illegals. All right, if you was a part of processing it over to them, if you was a mail carrier, say you one of your mail people, one of your people either in the little truck that delivered the mail, or the people that process the mail at the office. even state elected officials, it was gonna be some ramifications. You know what I'm saying? DOJ communications to states, right? Reports indicate the following. That following the executive order, the U.S. Department of Justice (DOJ) sent letters in July 2026, this month, to election officials in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. According to reports, y'all for that noise in the back, these letters detailed potential legal action for election officers regarding voter lists and ballots. So they was threatened. They pretty much were being threatened to be arrested, man. That says reports indicate that lawsuits were filed challenging the executive order, arguing that the U.S. Constitution grants states the authority to administer federal elections. All right, so the states got the authority to do it, to administer the elections, but Trump, he had a problem with it, and he's been doing this for a while. I did some research on it, right, for your benefit. Before we do that, let's get a quick precept, and we're gonna get right into how it costed the U.S. taxpayers. All right, so this is 2 Peter, verse 1, chapter 1, verse 4. Salakia. It says, "Whereby are given unto us, meaning the saints, the elect of Yahweh Shai, exceeding great and precious promises. All right, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature." All right, so the heathen, they don't, the Edomites especially, they don't have the divine nature. All right, it says having escaped the corruption, because that escape is that salvation through Yahweh Shai. All right, Yahweh Shai is the propitiation, the atonement for our transgressions, our wrongdoings. All right, reconnecting us to the Heavenly Father by giving us the light and showing us, that divine nature and taking us out of the darkness of this world. Right? It says having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Right? The world is about lust. Once again, that greed, the love of money is the root of all evil. When we see the evil, all right, the lust of more power, more and more, that insatiable appetite of Esau, Edom, and we talking about Nero 47 on this one. So let's get to it. All right, so it says election integrity was frequently discussed by DJT, but the premise of your question, because I put the wrong year, I forgot that he was number 45, and then Biden was 46, and then he's 47, right? All right, so he did discuss it. He said he discussed it in 2016 election. Trump, it says he claimed without evidence now, that millions of illegal votes cost him the popular vote, leading him to establish a short-lived Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity in May of 2017. So it says short-lived, so that commission is no longer, it's been decommissioned. All right, and then the next instance was in 2020, that election. That you see how it resulted. You see them J6ers, man. You see them, banging police and security over the head with the flagpoles and all that. And the Proud Boys is out there doing their things. And now they working as allegedly as ICE. Right? I've heard some speculation from various sources, various credible sources. I would put it like that. Now, it says the 2020 election, this is the second instance, right, where it said following his defeat by Joe Biden, he repeatedly alleged widespread voter fraud. Remember that? He was all in the news, voter fraud, and a rigged election, challenging the results through numerous legal filings, public addresses, and social media statements. He's like, "You're fake news, you're fake media, fake news, fake news, fake news. You report the true numbers." This is what he was saying. And I was like, how much did Trump's quote unquote rigged election and alleged voter fraud rhetoric, because that's what it is, that's what it was and what it is now, still rhetoric, what did it cost the U.S. taxpayers? It says an extensive investigation by the Washington Post, revealed that his rhetoric and false claims regarding the 2020 election cost U.S. taxpayers to the tune of at least $519 million. Sounds like somebody's liable. Somebody's on the hook to the United States taxpayer. Will the taxpayers ever see that back? Will they ever receive a return on his rhetoric, because anytime you defame anything or anyone, you're liable, and then you can be sued in court of law, right? Of competent judges, right? Anyway, anywho, it says this figure represents the direct expenses incurred by local, state, and federal government agencies to manage the fallout from the rhetoric. See that? It was a fallout, man. He cost $519 million, and this is the breakdown. It say military and National Guard deployment. The vast majority of the funds went toward deploying approximately 25,000 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. to secure the U.S. Capitol and the surrounding region during and after the presidential inauguration, because there was an insurrection. Let's get that precept real quick. We'll come right back. What that say right there, 2 Ezra 15 and 16, it says, this prophecy, man, said, for there shall be sedition among men. And that word sedition, what does it say? Is speech, writing, or behavior. Behavior intended to encourage people to rebel or fight against their government. And he caused that because he was giving that speech. I remember it was him, Mayor Giuliani, his sons, and some other bad actors, man, that really that kicked off that January 6th takeover of the Capitol, man, that cost the taxpayers all that money, because the National Guard came out there. It said it aims to shake or break public order and the rule of law. So these people are lawless, man. These people are lawless, bro. It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And we're going to see a lot more of that, man. I'm not, this is prophecy, man. So, hey, it is what it is. All right, so we get to the next section. It says law enforcement overtime. They paid $8.8 million. It says local agencies, Salakia, y'all for that big mouth in the background, Salakia. Local agencies such as the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department face millions of dollars in unexpected costs to fund emergency personnel surges and extra security details. All right, so it says capital repairs and damage control. It said taxpayers funded the cleanup and restoration of physical damage inflicted on the U.S. Capitol building following the January 6th insurrection. And then those people that was involved in that J6, the J6ers they call them, like this, they got like a pardon, man. All right, from Nero 47. All right, the one of the anti saviors, right? Called DJT. He bailed him out. Legal fees, $2.2 million, right? All right, so you see enhanced security for election workers, and then state level audits. This is what I want to get to right here. State level audits and investigations. Taxpayers footed the bill for multiple recount efforts. That was a headache, man, seeing that on the news. Just seeing it. It's like, man, they had to count all them ballots all over again and all that. All right, taxpayers footed the bill for multiple recount efforts and partisan election reviews, such as the early stages of the Arizona Senate's Maricopa County review, which ultimately verified the original election outcomes. And it's like, for the life of me, like, it's hard to understand, like, why somebody who was involved in so much corruption, like with the Epstein thing, and then how he fought so hard to get in that position. It's like he's like the perfect fall guy for something. It seems like it's like, man, one of the biggest failures known to mankind is now the president of the most failingest nation ever. And here we are, man. They're in the middle of a war to try to cover up the Epstein thing, and it's not working because people are still asking for those files, man. They're asking for the unredacted disclosure of his involvement. Why he was on the flight logs, and all those other politicians. All right, Democrat and Republican. All right, so they still trying to cover it up with all of these psychological instances, man. They still really trying to deflect from the truth of the matter, man. These people are the wicked, they are the corrupt, and truth is abomination to these liars, man, to these corrupt people. So that's why Amos 8:11 is gonna happen, man. I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. This Amos 8:11 said, "Behold, it's just like with the ballots and all that going out, right? Like people really gonna vote, and like it happens because you got to think like months back, right? With the whole thing with Louisiana, they did like the whole redistricting thing, and that right there is basically like taking the rights from the poor to Heavenly Father people. When I say Louisiana, I'm talking about Jake. All right, you talking about a lot of Negroes, all right, Latinos down there, Native Americans. So when you redistrict, like basically what you're doing is you're taking away right from the people, taking away their ability to go out and vote. I mean, we like Israelites, we really not supposed to be voting anyway because it's like praying to a God. Because if you look at the word vote, I mean pray, wish or desire to a God, right? That's literally what vote means. If you look it up on online etymology, right? So we don't vote, but nonetheless, to redistrict, it's like showing more corruption. Corruption is like something that's like unilateral, one-sided. You see, and this is what Esau Edom is doing. All right, so basically, it's like suppression. Voter suppression is like akin to censorship. It's like cutting the people off from doing something, making a difference, like a change in the way they trying to control things, like. And these people are literally like Trump. He like really looking like more and more like a dictator every day. He's looking more and more like Stalin or Mussolini or somebody like that, or Hitler. You know what I'm saying? In that regard, like as far as one man controlling, everything. Even though he got a cabinet behind him and everything, and an administration, but he's really pushing for like instead of you having a choice or the illusion of choice, he's gonna be like the only choice, and he got supporters talking about he gonna run for a third term, right? So this stuff crazy, man. But really, it's just really censorship. And so, that being said, in that same vein, in that same regard, like this truth is a threat. They got the C9 laws up in Canada. And you're gonna see it appear across the other nations, other continents, countries. Whereas this word of truth, the way it come out, how we filter it through the scriptures and break down the prophecies for y'all. And when we do it without charge, we do it because we're working out our own salvation with fear and trembling, because fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom, right? And people and the wicked, they pretty much despise wisdom, so they don't want this truth out. This is too much light, all right, for these roaches to bear, all right, for these corrupt people to bear. We know they bought and paid for it. They know they bought and paid for it, but they just don't like the fact that we know it. And we're like, who are we, right? They look down on us. But we bring this truth out regardless. Call Allah Yahweh Shai for providing us with this light. All right. Amos 8:11. I'm gonna finish up after this. Said, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, power Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, all right, nor a thirst for water." This is important to say, but the hearing the words of the Most High. All right. So they really despise this truth, man. And if they didn't, why are they doing what they're doing to suppress votes and gain more and more control of elections and stuff like that, so they can stay in power? And they need your vote. They need you to worship and praise them, bow the knee to them. That's what they need. But we ain't giving it to them. Not any of the hopefully elect. All right. So with that being said, man, the Bible ball. All right, and Abba Ratazar, I really hope this lesson was edifying and not too long, to the point. And I got my live camp tomorrow, and Lord's willing, it's edifying. And man, keep the faith. All right, Shalom.